Hello and welcome to Automate with Amit, and in this particular video series where I am going to cover automation framework design. This is first video in that whole video series. So here I will be talking about the step by step, and I will be designing the framework from scratch. And for that, basically we are going to take one website which is irctc.co.in, which is Indian train bookings website. So we will be designing some test scenarios, and we will be writing multiple test cases over there. So before going into that, we are going to see in this particular video what are different components are there in automation framework design. So all of those things we are going to cover in this particular video. So let's begin. So basically in here, if you see automation framework design, so before getting into the automation framework design, let's understand what is manual testing and automated testing, and then we will go ahead and see. So why automated testing is required basically. So you see, if we are going to take one particular website, okay, so over there whatever we wanted to do, if we are doing it manually, like we are using our hands to click or clicking or pushing any data into the text box or something like that, then all of those things comes under manual testing part. So for example, if I open irctc.co.in and if I navigate to that, so basically if you see right now what I did, I opened this particular browser, then I put this irctc.co.in, and then I navigated on this, and on the from button, if I am putting any particular station name Pune or something like that, and then if I am putting some Lucknow or something like that, then and clicking on this, so all of this I have done it manually. Okay, so that is the thing. In manual testing we are performing anything manually, but in automation testing, all of this process, if we are automating, like we are using any particular tool to do that. For example, we can use Selenium, and other automation testing tools are there, like Playwright, Cypress, and all those things which are there in market. So we can do use those also. But if we are using any particular tool to perform all these actions which we recently I shown to you, then it is called automation testing. Now again, there are two different approaches. I will not go into the deep because we are going to talk about automation framework design. So there are two types in which all this development of test basically happens. So test development is like we are creating the test cases. So how, in what way we are developing those test cases, over there are two approaches. So test driven development and behavior driven development. So test driven development is what? In TDD, basically software development practice that emphasizes writing tests before writing the actual code. Okay, so what does that mean? Basically, whenever developers are writing code, at the same time, if we are as a tester, we also start our test design, test creating test cases, reading out the requirements and all those things. Then it becomes test driven, like we are writing test cases before development has started. So that is called TDD approach. In BDD approach, what is BDD basically? So behavior driven development. So this is very common these days. BDD approach is very much famous nowadays. Everybody asks that BDD Cucumber and all those things. So BDD is a approach, but Cucumber is a tool to perform this BDD, to perform BDD. So what is behavior driven development? To perform BDD, we need Cucumber like tool to do this. So there are other tools also to perform BDD. So like SpecFlow in .NET and other JBehave or something. I think there are multiple tools are there to perform BDD. But what is BDD? So in this particular behavior driven development process, It promotes collaboration between developers, testers, customer service personnel during product development. So basically what happens, in TDD or BDD, we don't think about in BDD basically so what happens in BDD basically, so here we are writing in such a way, we are writing or collaborating in such a way that all the stakeholders, so maybe your management, your testers, developers, and all those people who all are involved in the whole development process, they also can collaborate and work together. Okay, so that's what is BDD. And so let's move ahead. Next is, how do we implement BDD in automation testing? Again, I said this using Cucumber. If we are using Java, then Cucumber is one tool which through which we can implement BDD. Next is, so now what is the Cucumber components? Of course, I mean in this particular series, we will also create this whole Cucumber framework. So let's see. Cucumber components, basically there are 4 components. Okay, Gherkin. Okay, so why Gherkin is used? It is used to write feature scenarios. Okay, so I'll tell you how to write the feature scenarios. Okay, so in Gherkin, basically, if you see, this is Cucumber's documentation, cucumber.io. So here, if you see, this is how we write test like scenarios in Cucumber Gherkin language. So this is Gherkin language, it's plain English. Okay, so if you see over here, this scenario, this is how we write scenario. So breaker joins a game, so given, when, then, like that, using these keywords, basically we start writing the any particular scenario. So the maker has started a game with the word silky, like that. Okay, so we will see that how we are going to use this Gherkin language here. Step definitions. So in order to perform all those actions, so whatever we had said in Gherkin language, we need to give some code behind that, right? So if I say like user opens the Chrome browser, so we have written this in plain English, but how are we going to tell the tools, automation tools like Selenium, how I am going to tell Selenium that open the tool? So that part, performing the action part is going to be done by Selenium. Okay, so for that purpose, whatever we have written in Gherkin language, the code to perform that action we write in the step definition. So step definition is what? It maps a step from a feature file to the corresponding executable code. Now what are the hooks? Hooks, basically, see, in hooks what happens, whatever things are there which we wanted to perform again and again for different test scenarios. So for example, there are 10 different scenarios are there. Okay, and in all 10 scenarios, there are few lines which we wanted to do again and again. For example, if we let's suppose we wanted to open the browser, then go to a particular URL again and again. So these 2 lines are same throughout, right? So for that purpose, hooks are used. So hooks are like before you wanted to perform actual thing. Okay, so before you wanted to perform actual thing, or you wanted to perform some few steps after you perform the actual actual scenarios. So like closing the browser, so each time you will close the browser, right? So there is no need to write those 10 lines of code, so single line of code in 10 different scenarios. Okay, so for that purpose we use hooks. So we will get to know more about this once we do this. So runner so runner is basically what? So runner is to run the scenarios. Okay, so whatever we have performed the things, whatever scenarios we have written, this runner is used to run those scenarios. Now next thing is page object model. You must have, if you are following the automation related videos or something, then you must have encountered this term, which is page object model. So what is page object model? So here you can break things in three different forms. So like page. So what is page? So page is whatever, here if you see, this is one page, right? This is one web page. So if I go on this particular page, so what is this? This is one page which got opened, right? So this is my IRCTC I can say booking page, right? So this is the very home page kind of thing. Okay, so if I click on login button, then this is login page, right? And then if I am going to use some other place, like clicking on buses, so this is opening my new tab, and this is buses, so IRCTC buses page. So like that, there are multiple pages which are opening, right? So page, we are mapping the pages into the Java objects. Okay, so each page, we will say that one page has one Java file, and what all are the web elements on there. So what are the web elements again? So all the things which you are seeing over here on the website, all those things are web elements. Being it a button, it is a web element. This is checkbox, this is also a button web element. This is also a web element. This button is also web element. Flexible. So this text, this image, and all those things are web elements. So we put all the web elements in that particular Java page, and what actions we wanted to perform on that particular web element, those all things we combine on one page. Okay, and we use that particular page. So because that page is what? It's a Java class, right? So we are going to use that class as an object. So that's why it is called page object model. So okay, each web page has been or is going to be used as a Java object. Okay, so in that format, if we are writing code, that means it is a page object model. Okay, so Java class or page object stores web elements and actions on web elements in the form of methods. Now third thing is Selenium. So again, why Selenium is required? Selenium is required to have all the actions we wanted to perform on the browser. So automatically whatever things are happening on the browser, we are going to do that using Selenium. So in that, there could be multiple things. So driver manager is what? Driver is web driver, basically is an interface which is used for doing anything on the browser. So that is very important thing, and it is a heart and soul of your Selenium. So we will be having multiple classes. We are going to create multiple things in Selenium. We Selenium related codes we are going to use. So of course Selenium is going to be used. Then Maven. So why Maven is going to be used? So Maven helps us to add dependencies. So like what dependencies? So dependencies like Selenium. So see, Selenium is a third-party tool, right? So whatever methods or classes or packages or whatever tool is there for Selenium, those things we are going to access using Maven. So being it Maven or any test framework, we are going to use TestNG or something, we are going to use using Maven. So Maven helps us to add dependencies in the project, create the right project structure, and building and deploying the project. Okay, now next thing is any test framework. So okay, so test framework is what? Test framework helps us to create, manage, execute or test cases. Okay, so whatever test cases or test scenarios we are going to write, those TestNG is going to help us to create or manage or execute those test cases. Or in case JUnit is another test framework, but in our case we are going to use TestNG. Now we are going to have few utilities or helper classes. Okay, so what are utilities? So in our automation framework, if we are going to use Excel file or CSV file or XML file, JSON file, properties file, or any kind of files which we wanted to use in order to read data from them. So in that case basically we wanted to use we are going to create all those classes, helper classes or utilities classes in here. under this package we will be creating. Okay, now there are one component which is listeners. So as name says, what are listeners? So listeners basically help us to listen what is the status of the test case after it gets executed. So what activities you wanted to perform after certain status of tests, that's basically listeners do. Okay, so if any particular test after execution it passes or fails, or it gets escaped or terminated, or we are getting some error, so listeners will tell, okay, this particular test has passed, this particular test has failed, escaped, terminate, and error. So in that case, whatever action you wanted to perform, maybe if you have failed test case, so you wanted to rerun that, so in that case we can have that using we can do that using listeners. Now logs and reports. See, logs are very information, it is very much important to use logs in the automation framework. Why? Because basically, see, once my test case gets executed, how I am going to use that? Because every time my test case executes, maybe hundreds of test cases. In real-time projects we have hundreds and thousands of test cases. So in that case, we use that much of test cases. So perform execution on that much of test cases. So in case I am also handling many test cases. So if you wanted to know more about my project, or how my project is there in my current company, and you wanted to know how much test cases do I handle, then comment in the comment box. I am going to create another video on my project itself, and how I am going to use or how my projects look like, automation projects look like. Okay, and okay, so basically what are different ways through which we can add logs? So screenshot, video recordings, or folder structure. So how basically we wanted to store the reports and all those things, we can have it designed under logs. So there are different ways through which we can design the reports, like extent reports are there, LEO reports are there. So we have to create one class, and through that we can use this extent reports and have beautiful looking HTML page. Okay, so this is how one report looks like. See, now here if I click on here, then how many test cases passed, how many test cases failed, how many events passed, or when it started, when it ended. So like all the test cases, how many test cases are there. So there are different test cases, what are different logs we have entered. So all those things we can have under extent report or any HTML report. Now next is data providers. So what are data providers? Basically data providers, see, in our test data for our scenario where we are going to use IRCTC. So let's suppose in any particular test scenario we are going to have passengers details, like from where you wanted to travel, till what station you wanted to travel. So all those details you wanted to have it. So in that case what we need to do, we need to have those data stored at some point, right? And if we wanted to use the same data to perform again and again testing, like we wanted to use the same kind of data, so in that case we have multiple data sources. Like we can store that particular data in Excel file, CSV file, XML file, JSON file, or any kind of data storage files. Maybe it could be database also. So we can have it there, and through data providers we can fetch that and use that into our test. Now next, some miscellaneous things, other things like retry mechanism. So in case my test case fails for no reason, so I wanted to retry again, so get it again, it should re-trigger itself. And resources, maybe other what different maybe any files we wanted to store, any global variables, like any we wanted to have any kind of timeouts or any constants we wanted to store, we can store under global variables. So in a nutshell, now let's understand what this whole layers of automation framework looks like. Okay, so in first, here you will see feature file and scenarios. So here Gherkin is used to write feature file and its scenarios. Okay, and this is part of Cucumber. Now second thing is step definitions, hooks and runner classes. So these things are used as a second layer, and it is used to write test cases, test scenarios in the form of Cucumber. In the form of BDD. Now the third layer is page objects model. So after this layer, basically our page objects come into picture. Okay, and next are the whole thing come under on the core framework part. So first layer is, you can say, BDD part, where we are using Cucumber. Second is design approach, so how we are going to use our page object models. And third is core automation framework, where we are going to have all these things available, and we are going to create this core automation framework which is going to be used. So if we wanted to use different, let's suppose we are going to start with the irctc.com, of course, but in case we wanted to use any different website to run our automation test. So in that case, these three layers will change. Okay, so these three layers, like page objects, we need to create differently, because obviously web pages will be changed because we are going to use different website. Step definitions, because we are going to write different scenarios, so hence our step definition will also change. Hooks will also change, and runner may be the same, but there could be changes in these three layers. Rest of these layers will be the same. Okay, so that's why it is called core automation framework, and this is main part of whole framework kind of. Okay, and this core framework helps to achieve all these three layers. Okay, to perform any particular automation task, these three layers are basically helps to perform these things. Now next is TestNG and Maven. So these TestNG and Maven helps to bind all these layers, and Maven of course provides the structure to the project, and TestNG helps us to write the test scenarios and test cases and manage, execute, and other things. Okay, so that was all in this particular video, and if you like this video and you are with me and you are going to start your journey with this particular video, so comment and like this particular video, because I will be going to share more and more videos on where we are going to design the whole framework from scratch. So it is going to be a very, very exciting journey ahead, and I am going to work with you all. And in case you are going to get stuck and you have further questions, you can comment, and I am going to personally resolve those comments. And yeah, so thank you, and see you in the next video. Thank you.